And I was just so excited to bring it to the students. The students were excited about it as well. So how long does it take to teach with a novel? Some people say, well, I can teach a novel in a week. And other people would say, oh no, it's gonna take me about 4 weeks, 5 weeks. I'm gonna tell you that my best experiences, this is just my experience, my best experiences when teaching novels, I have maybe on the 4 week mark. It takes me about 4 weeks to fully go through it if I'm going to do it with the whole class. You can teach, you can use novels or level readers. They're also called level readers. You can use these and you can use them to teach the whole class about a topic or focus on like a cultural aspect of the novel or and the language that they're going to acquire in the process, of course. But you can use this, and you can also purchase novels and bring them to your classroom for your free voluntary reading program or your classroom library. I'm not going to be talking about a classroom library here today because that's a whole other topic. That's a whole other webinar. But we will be focusing on how to unleash engagement with our class novels tonight. So several things that I'm going to go over tonight is selecting level appropriate readers for our classes. I'm not going to go way in depth on this, but my friend Diego Ojeda, he recently did a webinar that he's shared on my Facebook community, Transformation Through Acquisition Driven Instruction, if you're not part of it. And he actually just shared it today. And he goes in depth on how to select a novel and how to use it in your class. So if you want like a more in depth of how to select, just how to select the novel, I want to urge you to go check out his webinar. I do have to say, I have French teachers here tonight, that webinar is in Spanish, but it is so good. Okay, so the other thing we're going to be talking about is hooking learners with strong introductions and pre-reading activities, and how we can facilitate a variety of reading experiences so that our students don't get bored, because sometimes it seems like 4 weeks is a long time. But if you're teaching with units or you're bringing themes to the classroom, how long does it take you to teach those as well? A couple of weeks too. So the students are not going to feel it much differently. The other thing that we're going to be talking about is implementing practical post-reading activities and games, my favorite. This is my favorite part and stage of the novel. And then finally, possible assessments. And I might say some things that maybe you may agree or disagree on as far as assessments go, but we'll get there in just a moment. So that's another, so that's pretty much what we're going to be covering tonight. So when selecting level appropriate novels, for me, something very simple that is going to be like, well, wow, okay. It's just, we know some friends, we have friends, and some of our friends are ahead in their journey than we are. So that's what helped me find novels that work in my classroom. When I brought my first novel to the classroom, I had no idea what I was going to do, but I had no idea how to pick a novel. So I asked my friend Sarah Downey, who is a Spanish middle school teacher in my district, and I said, hey, what should I bring to my like novices? And what do I start with? She said, you got to start with the easiest novel. You got to start with the easiest novel. And I said, which one's the easiest novel? And then she said, oh, you have to try Capybara con Botas. Capybara con Botas is a novel by Myra Canyon. And actually, it was a very, very easy novel. So if you are like I was at that time, and you wanted to bring something super simple to your students, that is a great novel to start with. There are a lot more titles out there. There are so many authors. You have companies, and then you have independent authors, and we'll talk more about that in just a second. But definitely, the first thing that I would say is ask people that you do look up to, what novels have they read and which ones do they recommend, because that does go a long way. And I could tell you, you could ask me and I could tell you, I'm not going to say it on air, but there have been some novels that I haven't been so successful with. Doesn't mean they're bad novels. It just means that, I wasn't feeling it, and neither was my class. So I had to stop reading the novel halfway because there wasn't buy-in from me or from the students. So most importantly, I think before we bring the novel, we just have to consider several things. Always read your novels before bringing them to the classroom. That's why I highly suggest that you get these novels and maybe you're not gonna teach them tomorrow, but start getting them and read through them. They're really easy to read for us as teachers. It will take a couple of hours to read those, maybe like an hour to read one of those readers. Okay, it doesn't take long for us to read it. So always read the novel. And I always, when I'm reading novels, I always ask myself, will my students be able to understand it? If I am bringing this novel for a Spanish 2 class, are my students really going to understand? I kind of know already what they get. I know what language I need to deliver to them to make myself comprehensible. So if I'm looking at this, if I'm reading a page from this chapter, do I feel like it's going to be easy enough but challenge them slightly? Is it going to work for my students? So that's kind of one of the things that I look at. And something that I saw that my friend Diego was mentioning that is worth repeating on his webinar, he said that, you know, the publisher might tell you, this is a level 2 book and it has X many words, new words. And sometimes, yeah, that is true, okay? The publisher did the best to give it a level. But you as a teacher know that your students' abilities, and you have all the abilities in your classroom. So you kind of have to really make a decision on what will they be able to understand it. So you know, you can, it helps to go by the level. It helps to see what the publishers say, but ultimately you make the call, okay? So the other thing that I like to ask myself, will this novel capture my students' attention? Is it going to be something that my students are going to be into? For example, I teach in a school where I have a lot of athletes. It's just, that is a big thing. So I like to have those books that talk about someone that is athletic, so my students can relate to that. Sometimes I like to have that, okay? Does the novel intrigue me as a teacher? Okay, so that's another good question, because if it is not intriguing you, if it is not intriguing you as a teacher, you're not gonna be able to transfer that magic to the students. So if the novel, you're reading it and you're just like, oh my God, okay, or there no curiosity is sparked in you, then I would suggest you don't read that novel, okay? And now don't get me wrong, many of the novels that I brought to the classes, I was totally not familiar with the contents and the themes, and I read the novels. And like, for example, well, Capibara con Botas, I want to go to Ecuador because of that novel, okay? Escape Cubano, I wanted to go to Cuba because of that novel, and I got to go to Cuba because of it. Well, no, it was a big inspiration for me to go visit Cuba. So there, just every time I read a novel from a country I haven't visited, it just has that impact in me as a teacher, like, oh my God, I want to go to this country. That passion is transferred to my students, because we're talking about the language and we're talking about the culture. So does it intrigue me as a teacher? Okay. And then does it accurately represent the target culture? That's another big one that that we need to look into. That's why it is so crucial that prior to selecting a novel, we are reading those novels ourselves fully and we make wise choices. But you have the choice and you have a lot of freedom with that. So those are some points as far as selecting level appropriate novels. Again, start by asking your friends who have read some novels before. And then secondly, just make sure you look at them through a lens of, am I going to be able to connect these novels to my students? Because it is, you are making a commitment with that novel for 4 weeks at least. Oh, and you want to make sure that it is something that's going to be intriguing to you and to them. And not to say that if the novel flops, you can't just say, hey guys, we're not reading this anymore, because that's exactly what I did one semester with that one novel I mentioned. It was just not, my class wasn't feeling it. And I don't know, maybe it was just me that I was going through something at that time. I don't know. But I said, estudiantes, you know, this is the last chapter we're going to be reading. End of story. Moving on. Okay, not a big deal. So don't be afraid to do that if you try something and you see it's not working. All right, so several places that I would recommend to get novels. Now I want to tell you there are big companies and there are also your independent authors, okay? And I would say, while the big companies do sell the work by independent authors. If you can get them from the independent authors, get them from the independent authors, because that's going to support those independent authors. So for example, we have big companies that I know where I have purchased books, and I would say my favorite books I purchased are from Fluency Matters, because they have different authors in there, and I like the way the culture is embedded in there. I also love the books by AC Quintero. They're very engaging and intriguing to our teenagers. She has a website, and it is linked in this presentation, and I'm going to be sharing the PDF of this presentation, where you will be able to click everything I'm talking about tonight. And then we have, I mentioned Myra Canyon. I really love the way she writes. I think it is it captivates the students as well. I think, and I like that she has several novels that are for the lower levels. Myra Canyon has novels for the lower levels. The reason why I suggest also some of the big companies, sometimes I do like to support my independent authors in any way that I can, but the companies, the bigger companies, sometimes they have novel guides. They have novel guides, and if you are brand new at teaching with a novel, I suggest you make the investment, or you ask your school to make the investment to buy you the novel guide, because your novel guide is kind of like riding a bike with training wheels if it's your first time. Okay, you want to have those training wheels, and it will be a learning experience. I have to tell you, when I first read one of my other first novels, was also for Myra Canyon. It was Fiesta Fatal, and I purchased her novel guide that was over 120 pages. Oh my God, like how many activities were in there? I didn't even do half of them, but I've learned so much from the activities I did carry out with my students. So investing in the novel guides, if it's your first time reading novels, I highly suggest it, because the work's already done for you, and it is going to be kind of like an independent PD. As you go through the novel, it's going to show you how to do activities. And then later on, when you do another novel, it's going to come back to your brain, and it's going to be like, oh, we did an activity like this with Capybara con Botas. This might work too for this novel. And you're going to find that a lot of the activities that you do with one novel will work with another novel, and so on and so forth. So if you're brand new to novels, get donors choose, or get your school to fund and buy a couple of novel guides for you. Select a couple novels and buy that. And by the way, this is not a I'm not going to have the chance to talk about this at all, but I thought about doing this. And I said, maybe I should get together with a couple of teachers very informally and say, we're going to be writing a donors choose project together in a Zoom room. And I don't know if that's something that will be of interest to my Facebook community and to you guys listening tonight. But definitely, my first 2 class set of novels were purchased by Donors Choose, by a project I wrote at Donors Choose, and it was funded like that. And I had the novels in 2 weeks in my class, so it totally works. So I have a link right here, and it's called Level Novels Catalog, created by a collaboration between Mike Pito and Martina Vex. If you click on it, it's going to open a spreadsheet, and it has over 180 something novels by a variety of authors in Spanish, in French, in German. So it's going to have a lot of novels that have been made throughout the years. And I think it was last updated on July or June of 2020. So it's not too old. And you can click in here, and you can see all the novels by level. So if you're thinking, oh, what kind of novel can I bring to level 2, level 3? So you can select a couple, but don't forget to read it yourself, so you can make that last call. Like, yes, this is a novel my students will be able to understand. Okay. And then I highly recommend this blog. Oh my God, I forgot I know his last name is Chonko, I believe. And he has a lot of really rich links and a lot of really rich reading about how to get started with novels. And in this link also, he talks about how to start your free voluntary reading program in the classroom. So I highly suggest you check that out as well. Okay, so those are some of my places that I love to shop for. And my friend Maribel is watching. That's like my best friend. And and that's a picture of her. So I want to say hi, Mari. So Yes, so that was us at that conference a couple of years ago. All right, so let's talk about hooking students with a novel. Sometimes we are able to hook them by, I don't know, maybe the novel takes place in the Dominican Republic and we can make something that, a food that represents that country to kind of like invite them. Food never fails, but we don't want to just do that. We maybe the novel is about, I know that when I did Felipe Alou, Alison Winhole from Mis Clases Locas, she had an excellent idea about making a baseball glove, so that to introduce the students to the novel, because the main character was a baseball player. So I know that my students really enjoy making that baseball glove and playing with each other. And so sometimes, if you can find something that is relevant to the culture, truly relevant to the culture or to the character, you can do an activity like that to hook the students. But if you can't find anything, a picture is really worth 1,000 words. Okay, you can bring a picture of something that has to do with the novel, and you can have the students come up with phrases to describe the picture. And I love to do this activity not just with novels but with stories. Sometimes when I'm going to introduce a story, I am asking questions like, what do you see, or what do you think is happening, or what are these people thinking? Or maybe just, with Jamboard, I will have them draw a line and annotate about something about the picture. It could be, oh, there is a girl and she is crying, or whatever the students are noticing in the picture. They just kind of like all doodle on that page. And by the way, I am teaching 100% virtually. And I have done, I mentioned to you, I've done novels in the classroom, and I also done them virtually with a lot of success this semester. So yes, my people on Facebook are asking if I have shared the link in the chat. No, I will share the link after I'm done with the presentation with everybody, but I haven't shared it yet. I'm sorry, I don't have it ready to share just yet. Okay, but you will get it, Daniela, you will get the link for sure. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to go on to is pre-reading activities. Okay, sometimes we may feel like we have to teach a long list of vocabulary before diving into the novels, and that is not necessary. Okay, you don't have to pre-teach the vocabulary, but you can lead the students to make strong connections through personalized questions and answers that include new targeted vocabulary. So when I was talking about the novel guides, for example, from the novels I have purchased from Fluency Matters, they do a really good job at having in that novel guide already picked questions with a picture. So for example, we're reading Frida Kahlo in my class, and the one of the questions the other day, let me think which one. Oh, what is the ideal age to get married? What is the ideal age to have children? So with my high schoolers, everybody had all these different ages. And so we had that conversation before the novel, and we actually were looking at the word edad, edad, instead of the word años, because in Spanish too, everybody knows años by then, but edad may not be one that they are so familiar with. So we're like looking at that word again, and we're making connections with that word. And then not only that, we're making connections with something that's going to happen in the chapter. So you want to do the vocabulary. If you're going, you don't have to pre-teach the vocabulary, but you can create a question that is compelling to the student, that is relevant to that chapter. You only have to stay one chapter ahead of the student, okay? You don't have to map out the whole unit. You can just stay one chapter ahead of the student and you'll be fine. So I would suggest you have those questions. You have only 3 or 4 questions with 3 or 4 target structures, and then you do personalized questions and answer, where you ask the students questions based on that, on what's going to happen, and just targeting a phrase. Okay, the other thing that we want to keep in mind is that pre-reading activities are more about connecting the students to the geography of the country they're going to be studying, because many times, yes, they might have learned all the countries and all the capitals and all the flags in Spanish 1, but what do they really know about that country? Do they even remember that? So that's why I absolutely love teaching with novels, because the students get so connected and so invested with that particular country during that entire time. And something that I do in my classroom is that I had ordered years ago, I had orders a class set of flags for every Spanish speaking country. So when we're reading a novel from Cuba, the Cuban flag is hanging in my classroom. When we're reading a novel from Costa Rica, the Costa Rican flag is hanging in the classroom. So that's, and it just makes a stronger connection for the students. And we love it. I love it. So, and you can do something called map talk, in which you print a map for the students of that country where the novel is taking place. And you would already know what the novel is going to talk about, what places the novel's going to take place in, what kind of things are going to be relevant to the culture that were mentioned in that country. So you can kind of, even if it's not mentioned, you can talk about where the country is located, what other countries are surrounding that country, what seas are close to that country, which which ocean is bordering that country, that kind of thing. You can also, with the pre-reading activities, we're establishing connections to the characters of the novel, and also possibly to the students' own lives. Sometimes we do connect them to their lives, because a lot of the stuff that the characters are going to go through is connecting to what the students are going through. And then sometimes we can even connect them to a cause, a bigger cause. Maybe they're going to start caring about the environment a little bit more, and things of that nature, depending on the topic of the novel. Okay, so pre-reading is all about connecting our students. And if we connect our students successfully, they're going to be invested in that book. And that's what we want. They're going to be engaged the entire time. Okay, so here are some other things that I wanted to share with you. You can facilitate a variety of reading options. So when you're reading the novel, you can read it in so many ways. Every day can be different. If you find that your class, for example, this specific video that I'm going to show you is from years ago. And if you find that the one class, this particular class right here, all they wanted to do was readers theater. That's all they wanted to do. So I let them have at it every day with readers theater. And so you can do whole class where the teacher reads to the students. You can read to them. If your students, sometimes depending on the block they come to you, they want to be calm and they want to listen to you read to them. Or maybe they want to listen to the audiobook if you have the audiobook and you can play it for them. And it's relaxing for them. Okay, we think our students are always like hyperactive, but sometimes they want peace and quiet. So maybe they come to you at a time where they do want that peace and quiet, and they're just going to be listening carefully. Okay, you can do whole class and do popcorn reading. You call on one child, that child reads a sentence, a paragraph, and then this child calls on another random child, and they can't repeat who's being called on, or you can if you want, so they don't doze off. So you can do popcorn reading. Some people like to do popcorn reading and translating, but that's up to, if you feel that's what you want to do, you can do that too. We can do whole class and only have the people who want to volunteer read. Okay, and usually it will be the students who normally, for when I do whole class and we have only volunteers, these are my students who are good at reading and they feel confident. Sure, let them continue to strengthen those skills. So allow them to do that. You can do small group reading and assign tasks to keep your students accountable. Okay, so if you do small group reading in the classroom, if you are face to face in the classroom, and even if you put them in breakout rooms or whatever you call them on Google Meet or on Teams, whatever it is that you are using, if you put them on small groups, you can say, okay, you are going to be the person in charge of looking up vocabulary words that people may have a question about. Okay, you're going to be in charge of maybe recording a summary of what you read. Okay, you're going to be in charge of summarizing, just for everybody verbally. Okay, so you can give them different assignments for them to do if you have them reading groups. If your classes are really, really, really amazing, okay, then you can have them, you just don't give them any assignments and let them read. Let them read if they are going to be doing what they need to be doing. Also, independent reading. You can always have students, some students want to be reading independently, and that's fine. And just because they read independently and they finish quickly, doesn't mean that we're going to give them more work, because that student may not necessarily want more work. So we can give them something to keep them accountable for the reading, if they're reading independently. Maybe something like a Flipgrid where they can go and create a video and tell you about the book in the target language or in English if it's, you know, interpretive reading. And it's like a lower level, I would have them just tell me what they read in English if it's like a super low level. But then, you know, Spanish 3, then I will have them kind of summarize for me in the target language. And then reader's theater, which is when the students act out the scenes. So I'm gonna show you this little video right here that I have. Is very, very short. And this is my students, like I said, a couple years ago. And one second. It's a couple of years ago, and they were definitely enjoying themselves reading.
De repente una ola super grande la pega a mi mamá. Ella flota con la ola hacia la
Can you
playa.
guys hear? Because it's kind
¡Mamá! ¡Mamá!
Grita. No puedo ver bien a mi mamá, es de noche.
Alondra, ¿dónde estás?
Pregunta mi papá. No sé dónde está mi mamá, no puedo ver bien, es de noche.
Miguel, Miguel.
Me grita mi mamá.
¿A dónde vas?
Me pregunta mi papá.
Voy con mi mamá.
Respondo.
Tú vas conmigo.
Me dice mi papá.
Miguel, vamos.
Me grita mi mamá.
Mamá, subete.
Exclama.
Sí.
Miguel, no tú puedes ir.
Gloria, la guardia costera.
La guardia costera.
Grita Gloria. Los guardias tienen rifles. Rápidamente mi mamá va hacia el carro.
Okay, so that was about 4 years ago. That's before, you know, I got rid of my desk and all of that in the classroom, but we had a lot of fun. They had a lot of fun, and the person who was reading was actually that was a volunteer reading. So they she wanted to read, and she was really good at reading, so I just allowed her to read and continue to work on that, you know, on that skill. So if you have purchased a class set of novels, or if you have purchased an online novel, then something else that you can do if you have purchased it, okay, is you can do a story tell of the chapter. When doing a novel digitally, this is something that I've done that has worked for me really, really, really well. So I just did a digital storytelling of the chapter. So this was a chapter 1 from Frida Kahlo, and I told my students what was going on, and I even had a little love triangle in there. And by the time I was done with chapter 1, they were intrigued. They were like, why are you leaving us on a cliffhanger? What's gonna happen? Okay, so that's they really, really, really love it. And I have asked them many, many times, do you prefer to read on your own, or do you want me to do the storytelling and then you read on your own? And they always want me to do the storytelling, and you know, just tell them about the chapters. And that's something that works for me. Like I say, do this is something you can do if you have purchased the novels. If you have a class set, like I have a class set in my class, but I can't use it because I'm 100% virtual, and so are my students. And then I also or if you do it virtual, if you do I know that Fluency Matters also has the virtual novels, and they have activities that the students can complete online. This year, my school was not able to purchase for me the novels, the electronic novels, but I found a way to do the novels with my students, so that my students were gonna be doing all these assignments and still have a meaningful connection to each chapter. So for me, it's not just reading a chapter and we move on. Okay, especially if your students need a lot of exposure to the target structures, we don't just do the chapter and move on to the next chapter. If your students are they really catch on really quickly, and you're reading a novel that's very, very, very easy for them, which is not a bad thing either, you can move a lot faster. But if it's a novel where they're gonna have a lot of new acquired words, I would suggest you move a little bit slower. Because I am virtual, I have a question. So you tell a chapter before they read it. Yes, I do a storytelling of the chapter before they read it, so that when they go read it, they are better. They are just feeling so much more confident reading the chapter. Okay. Rebecca's saying she's seen screencasts each chapter with something similar to my example. So when we're talking about post-reading activities, what to do after reading, what can you do after reading? Something that I like to keep in mind that I used to do at the beginning, okay? What I used to do at the beginning of my teaching career when I did post-reading activities, not just for novels, I was only stuck on this little square right here. This is where I was stuck. The questions that I asked my students were on this level during my first 3 years of teaching. True story. I wish I could ask for forgiveness to all of my past students for all my wrongdoings. But you know, then you learn new things, and then you try to do better. And something that I would like to say about post-reading activities, they have read the chapter, you told them the story, now is the time to have them and be a little bit sneaky and send them to read the chapter again and again and again in a way that's not going to be boring for them. So we find different ways to bring activities for them to do after reading. So I'm going to share with you several activities, and I hope, Melinda, that I can give you some ideas for something that you can do with virtual and asynchronous. So we'll see. Okay, so we have foldables. So if you have your students in the classroom, you can do some foldables like the one in this picture. Okay, I got really, really good because my copier machine was broken pre-COVID time for like 3 months. True story. I had to figure out how to do foldables on the go, and I got really, really good at making foldables out of nothing but a piece of paper. And every day I was teaching with a foldable, so I can like make foldables on the fly. And this was around that time. So I had my students read a chapter, and I had them create this foldable, and I had them identify hashtags that represented the whole chapter. That is a language the students use. Hashtags, they do that on social media. Okay, keywords, words that are new to my students. Everybody was going to have different keywords because everybody was going to have some words may not be familiar to one student, and they might be acquired already by another student. So they're going to have different keywords from the chapter. Also to identify characters. And this particular novel, this was Felipe Alou. It had a lot of dates. So I created a category for important dates. So in chapter 1 of Felipe Alou, they talked about a lot of dates, and I wanted my students to record those dates. The other thing, I had them create a summary of the first chapter. So that was an idea for a foldable that they could do. Teaching online. If you're teaching online, I transfer all of these activities to the online world. Okay, so I do, if you do not know, maybe you know, I don't know how long you've been following me, or you just saw me on a post when I invited people to this webinar, but I absolutely love and I'm crazy about Jamboard. So I use Jamboard for everything in the classroom. I use Jamboard just about. But you don't have to use Jamboard if you don't want to. You can use Google Slides or PowerPoint, and you can have your students deliver the same information in the PowerPoint or in Google. You can give it a cute design, or maybe do a blank PowerPoint. There's no shame on giving students a blank PowerPoint and giving them categories, because right now our time is very, very limited. Okay, so students will engage in meaningful and focused reading on the chapter, and that is what we want. We want the students to engage in meaningful and focused reading of the chapter over and over and over again, so that they can acquire that language. And when they are acquiring that language, and when they are reading through this literacy, they're going to get better at writing. They're going to get better at spelling. Or heritage speakers are going to get better at identifying the accent marks and fixing their own internal spelling errors by reading and reading and reading. And then you can check out if you want to have more ideas. If you want more ideas for foldables, you can go to my blog post. I did a blog post, I want to say over a year ago, where you can see more examples of foldables, okay? If you want to know more about foldables. I did a whole workshop on foldables like 2 years ago, maybe. And maybe I need to do another one again. Maybe when everybody's back at school, I do another one on foldables, how to just the art of folding papers and doing activities like low prep activities. Okay, so those are foldables are a powerful tool. And like I said, if you're teaching online, you can have them do the activities on Google Slides, PowerPoint, okay? Here is another activity that I had my students do, okay? It's a gallery walk. In Jamboard, if you notice, when I invited you to Jamboard earlier, I had 3 pages or frames. They're called frames in Jamboard. In Jamboard, you can have up to 20 frames. So you can have a little paragraph from the book, okay, in here, and you can ask them to illustrate what they read. And then you can have other kids later on come and read that paragraph and see that illustration and then ask questions based on that paragraph they just read. Okay, so the paragraph is right here. And then you can have them ask questions. So the students here, obviously their questions are not gonna be done perfectly. Some of them feel confident with putting in their accent marks on the computer, some of them don't. So you're not gonna see perfect work from my students, okay? And that is okay. So here we have this, in this particular one, I had the students come and read different parts of the chapter, and then I had them illustrate on Jamboard, and the whole class was on one jam. The whole class was in one jam, and then I had them, I told them that they needed to go to 3 different ones and ask questions about the chapter. So they had to read the chapter. They had one student was assigned to a picture. So they had to read the little paragraph, and they had the picture as support. And then after they were done doing that, they had to go to visit 3 other classmates and put some questions in there to show me that they understood. So I made them ask questions. This time I made them ask questions, but I could have made them create statements instead of asking questions. If they're like super novice and I want to give them, I want them to tell me what they read in English, I could ask them to tell me a sentence in English summarizing something they read, if they're like absolutely novice. But definitely there's different ways that you can set this up. You can set up the virtual gallery walk on Jamboard. I heard other people do it also on Google Slides. And then please always be careful with what you can do and cannot do with text online, okay? If you're not familiar with the Teach Act of 2002 and a Fair Use Doctrine, you can use some text in the classroom. So you might wanna check into that, just letting you know, because I know I don't wanna get any authors mad over here that, I am telling you to go put all the chapters in there for your students. So just be careful with that. Okay, so here's another activity that you can do in the classroom. If you are in the classroom, you can buy from the Dollar Tree a plastic sleeve, those sheet protectors, yes? Okay, and you can put the book inside there, and you can have them annotate with using this little code. So the students, you can have them read 2 pages, and you can have them do some annotations and use a question mark if something they read arises a question. They can use a star if something they think is important or the main idea, circle unfamiliar words or confusing words. So you have them just do a full annotation of the chapter or of 2 pages, and then that way, you can go and check and see if they've been engaged in focused reading and maybe answer some of their questions. And they're also looking, when they're reading, they're looking for specific things. So therefore, they are going to be totally focused on what they're reading. Okay, so this is another activity that I will share the link to this activity with you at the end as well. Okay, so here are more focused reading activities that I absolutely have enjoyed with my students. And like I say, the idea is to have the students get as many repetitions as possible while engaging them in high order thinking. So for example, something that students may do when they're reading a novel in English class is analyze the character. We can have them do that too. We can have them analyze the character, and this is a template that I have, and you can use it over and over and over again. So if you can't buy the novel guide, you can use a template like this, and you can have the students complete it. So when they had read chapter 4, I had my students create one of these for the different characters mentioned. So one of my students wrote about Frida, and this is how she defined Frida on chapter 4, adjectives that describe her, an important phrase that she said, or something that was relevant to her. And then I had emotions or actions taken by the character, and then what does she think about this character? Okay, and I thought this was pretty interesting, what she said, what she thought about this character. Okay, here's another example of another activity. You don't need a template to do this activity. You can just do it on a Google slide or on a Jamboard, and then you can have the students come up with 2 truths and 1 lie, and they're gonna put what their lie is, but then they're gonna cover it up. And Jamboard gives you the option to bring shapes, just like Google Slides. They're gonna cover it up, and then they're gonna write a little statement of why that's a lie. So you have them create the 3 statements about the chapter, and then you can put them in breakout rooms so that they can talk about which one is the lie, and they can discover each other's lie, and then you can switch them up and go to another partner so they can have a conversation with another partner and try to figure out if they can nail which ones are the lies. But this is activities created by the students. This is an activity that you provide the template to the student or the instructions, and they are created by the student. Okay, so I have a question from Maritza. It's saying each student has a Jamboard for the analysis. Yes, with Jamboard, just like with Google Slides and just like with Google Docs, when you assigned to the students, you can assign them the link to force a copy for them. So it will make a copy for each student. So every student will have their own copy, just like Google Slides, just like Google Docs. So it will make a copy for each individual student. Okay, and then here are some other examples as well. You can get them speaking. So again, obviously it's not gonna be like super impromptu speaking. It's very supported speaking, but they will be speaking. Okay, and on the next one, here are some more activities that I like. Oh my God, this one I shared about, and you probably saw it because I invited people to this webinar with this activity. This is like by far one of my most favorite ones because it saves me time, and because I can turn it into an activity the next day, and my students really enjoy it. So you have the students create a variety of questions. Keyword is variety, because if I don't tell them you guys have to create a variety of questions, if I don't tell them that, they're gonna give me all true or false questions. So you have to tell them you want a variety of questions, okay? Anna's asking, is this all on Jamboard? Yes, it is on Jamboard, but you can do it on Google Slides, and you can also do it on paper, okay? So it's not limited just to Jamboard. But yes, yes, I when I use it in the classroom, I use it with Jamboard, but you could also do it on Google Slides, and you could also do it on paper. So you have them create a variety of questions after they read the chapter, okay? And I don't know about you, but I know when my level 2s come to me, they don't have really good question making skills. Like they're not really good at creating questions. So this is an excellent activity where they're going to gives them the opportunity to get really good at creating questions. So what I will do, I have them all turn it in on the learning management system, and then I have them cover up the sentences. I mean the answers. Okay, so there are answers under those sticky notes. There are answers under those sticky notes, and they are movable, so you can move them. And so I have them cover up the answers. And what I do, so there's 2 things that I do. They turn them in by 3 o'clock. And what I do is I just, in the afternoon, I glance through every one of them. I select the best questions, and then I make a Kahoot, or I make a GIMP kit. I don't have to come up with questions. It saves me time. because they created the questions for me and I select the best ones. And then I have a game. If I have 29 students, so I'm going to have a long game with a lot of questions that is over a topic that they all were supposed to read the day before. Okay. So, and then the other activity I can do with this Jamboard, with this template, is that I can absolutely have them put them in breakout rooms, and again have them ask each other the questions and see how many of them they can get right or wrong. Just kind of talk about the chapter and have them do that. Same idea. This is the same idea, but instead of having 5 questions, you have 2 questions. So it's a much shorter activity and much shorter exchange. Okay, so this is some activities you can do. Also, you can get them collaborating. These pictures are from longer ago, so they're from maybe, I want to say, well, this one was from a year ago. This one was from maybe 3 years ago. So you have the students create a lot of, you have them work together in a group. These guys were working on a poster because they were going to present on the novel. They were going to divide. We had just finished reading Capibara con Botas in that particular one. That was my Spanish 2 class, and they were going to present on that novel, and they were going to tell me about it. So they were going to divide the chapters, and each one of them was going to tell me briefly, maybe like a minute, about each chapter. But they had to have a visual, so they were collaborating on the visual, and they had a lot of fun with that. It was a very successful assessment, and it was very low stakes, and it was very easy for me to grade as well. Okay, so here's another activity. The students were just working, they were doing Felipe Alou. This activity came from the Fluency Matters novel guide, and at the end of the chapter, we just they had to go through Felipe's life and figure out what happened first to what happened last. They already knew because they had been following the chapter, but they just had to kind of like go over it again, and they're reading and collaborating to find out the answers. So very successful activity as well. Another one that you can do for digital collaboration is you can have them come up with reactions. These reactions came from an activity that I'm going to share with you. This particular reactions right here, they came from an activity that I'm going to share with you in a little bit. And pretty much it's 4 reactions. It surprised me that, it bothered me that, I learned that, and I already knew that. So after they read chapter 1, they had to come up with reactions of something that happened in the chapter. And as you can see, all of my students did it successfully, except for 3 of them. Well, 4 of them. And 1 of them was absent. The other 3, I don't know, bad connection. Maybe they didn't want to do the work. I don't know what happened. But everybody else kind of like, they all did it. And they could see, they kind of showed me their connection to the chapter. And pretty much they had to find out, they had to tell me a statement. You can do this, you can put them, you can get them collaborating, and you can put them in breakout rooms as well again. And you can have them come up with, instead of having this template, you can just put them in breakout rooms and have them come up with 4 reactions. And then just they can put their head together and pick the 4 reactions, and then come back, and you can call in different groups to tell you 1 reaction each. And just so that they can collaborate and discuss the novel in little groups. So you can have them do it on a Google slide, or you can have them write it on a piece of paper. I just, like I said, because I am virtual and I love the structure of Jamboard, I just decided to do it on Jamboard. You can also do this on a Pear Deck as well. And you can just have them come up with 4 reactions, have 4 slides, and then you can collect answers from all the students. So whatever tech is working for you, that's what you want to use. Whatever tech is working for you, that's what you absolutely want to use. Okay, you can also get your students writing. You can get them writing in different ways with the novels. You can have them, obviously you can't put them in a circle this close at the moment. This is a picture from last year, but you can have them do that digitally on a Google slide, and assign everybody a slide, and have them, okay, so if this person is on the first slide, they're gonna move on to the second slide, and they're all gonna scoot. So they're gonna scoot down a slide. And that way, so you have them write for like 30 minutes about a chapter, like and then not 30 minutes, I'm sorry, 30 seconds about the chapter, 1 minute, okay, 1 minute. Let's say we're gonna do 5-minute writing. So you're gonna have them write for 1 minute or 40 seconds, whatever time you want, about chapter 5 of your novel. Okay, you set the timer for 1 minute, and then they write as much as they can, and then you have them scoot down a slide, and then they go and continue from wherever that person left off. And it's just kind of like a good way to have them do writing and just kind of elaborate on where their partners left off. Okay, so that's how I transfer this activity to like a digital mode. Okay, so let's see. And then we have another tip that I like to use for speaking and for writing at the beginning, especially with the students when they have a lot of specific vocabulary. Give them a word cloud, have them create a word cloud themselves, or give them a word cloud so that they can use that as a scaffold to do some more writing and to do some more speaking. Because sometimes they don't necessarily, they know what the words mean, but they can't recall them rather quickly. So you can give them give them the opportunity to create a word cloud of words they think they need to talk about a chapter, and you can have them just refer to that as a backup during, before the assessment. Obviously in the assessment, it's your choice if you want to give them a scaffold or not. Okay, so I have a question. Do you do any speaking activities while doing the novel? How do you monitor there on the TL? I do some, but I'll explain to you in just a moment how I do those, because we're gonna get to that in just a second. Okay, so the other thing that you can do, also my favorite games for novels are in the classroom. I can't do this right now, sadly. I know I saw a teacher who shared, but I missed it and I didn't save her post. But there was a teacher on one of the teaching groups, or language teaching groups, who made the Lucky Reading game digital. I don't know how she played it digitally, but I need to find her post, but I haven't had time to check. But the Lucky Reading game by Senora Chase is linked right here. If you haven't done that game, it is absolutely fabulous because it is all about luck. It's about answering the questions correctly, but it's about luck. It's very engaging. You can play it for 20, 30 minutes, and the kids are going to love it. Okay, yes, Angelica is saying she loves that game. Also, the Unfair Game by Martina Bex is kind of like, I wouldn't say it's the same. It's kind of like the same, but yes, there's also an element of luck in there. So the kids love that because it's never gonna be, the people who earn the most points are the people who have the right questions all the time are not necessarily the ones who win. Then you don't want to forget about your good old tools like Jeopardy Lab. Has anybody used Jeopardy Lab in here? Okay, it is a website that if you haven't used it, let me click on it. And am I sharing my screen? No, okay. So this is Jeopardy Labs, and you can create a game, and it just makes it for you. And you can play it, and you can host it and everything. And there are a lot of games already made in there. But I use Jeopardy Labs a lot to do reviews of the chapter in the classroom. And then I have an example from the novel Escape Cubano. So if you're reading Escape Cubano, you can click here and you can grab my Jeopardy Lab that I made for that novel that year. And then also I played Fly Swatter. I have a little Jamboard game that I made where the students have to play Fly Swatter. In this particular one, I had 3 of them. I don't know, maybe she made a duplicate, but there should only be 2 of them. And then I say something, I make a statement, I describe somebody, and then, they play Fly Swatter like they would play on the regular classroom, and they write how many points they have and all of that. So that's another activity they can do. Obviously, we have our online games, and I kind of gave you a hack of what you can do so that you don't have to be creating questions for the chapter every day. Seriously, if you ask your students to write, like if you don't want to do that activity I showed you, you can literally just make a Google Doc and have the students come up with 2 questions each, 2 multiple choice questions, collect those questions in that Google Doc, or if you're doing it on paper, collect those papers, and you have your quiz made for the next day. Of course, you're gonna make the necessary changes, make sure everything's correct, But that is one way in which you don't have to make the quizzes. You let them make the quizzes, and I promise you they're going to challenge themselves. But I do want to say one thing. Remember when I showed you Bloom's taxonomy earlier, and I said I was always stuck on the remembering phase? When we are creating Quizlet, Kahoot, Gimkit, or Bluekit, the new game, Bluekit, for the novels, you want to keep in mind that you give the students the opportunity to see a variety of questions that needs to be contextualized. The vocabulary needs to be contextualized. They have to see it in context all the time. We don't just, I'm not saying don't have vocabulary terminology. That's not what I'm saying. You can have a couple of those questions where you just ask them, okay, what does this word mean? And then give them 5 choices or 4 choices. But we want to give them an opportunity to process and read and reread the questions, especially on a game like Gimkit or on a game like Bluekit, where the questions are being repeated. We want to take advantage of that the students are going to be reading all of the questions and all of the answers. So that I really like to give my students questions with long answers. What kinds of questions can you make when you are doing Quizlet, Kahoot, Gimkit, and Bluekit? Okay, you can say, who said the following phrase? Or which phrase that Frida said, and give them a couple different phrases from different people. Or what is true about Frida? What is not true about Frida on chapter 3? And give them statements. Or which one happened first? And only give them 2 choices. What I do on Gimkit, if it's a true or false questions, I just put XXX on the other 2 choices. So they only have 2 choices. Then provide a statement and a choice of questions. Ask them to match a statement to the most appropriate question. So you can give them a statement, and then you can give them 4 questions. Which question is more than likely the question that goes with the statement? A lot of thinking happening on that, a lot of processing happening. Fill in the blank, vocabulary that is in context, fill in the blank, and then true or false. True or false. True or false never gets old. Give them some opportunities. Here are some examples of some questions. These are examples in Spanish, okay? But you can see what I'm talking about. So I give them a question with the vocabulary in context. I give them a question of who said. I give them a question of like why, and then I give them long sentences. And I wanna make them read as much as I can. Not just when they're reading on the book, but also with my questioning. I want to make sure that I am reaching those higher levels and they are processing this information, okay? So there is that. And then I'm about to wrap it up. I didn't realize it was already 8 o'clock, oh my God. So we have different ways you can assess. You can have them do a smash doodle presentation. I'll explain what that is in just a second. You can have them do a collaborative book presentation. I talked about that briefly earlier, how the students made a big poster, and then they just said, okay, you're talking about chapters 1 and 2, you're talking about 3 and 4, and then they're going to come present to me. And you can have them do presentational writing, okay? For me, honestly, I prefer to have them do presentational writing task for novels. That I just feel like they gain a lot more with that, and that transitions into acquisition later on. Okay, so you can have them do a descriptive task, a comparative task, present your opinion task, persuasive task. Depending on the level of your student, you know what you're supposed to ask the students at higher levels. What are they supposed to be doing with the language? What's the language function that we're looking at in level 3 and level 2 and level 1? So based on that, you can create prompts. And all you have to do is have them write on a blank sheet of paper, or have them write on one of those beautiful word count sheets that Martina Bex and Scott Benedict have. I know Scott Benedict has one for free on his website that has the word count. Okay, so Elisa's saying Google Keep is the best. You can create labels and upload pictures. And Wakelet is good too. Okay, I also save ideas under reading, writing, listening, and speaking in Google Keep. Okay, all right. Because someone's asking, how do we keep track of all of these ideas? Okay, if you have ideas, thank you. Amanda is sharing ideas, Melinda is sharing ideas, and Elisa's sharing ideas. So, and then smash doodles. I don't know if you're familiar with smash doodles, but if you haven't done smash doodles, they are it for novels. They are it. Okay, you can have them create some after they read each chapter, although I don't advise that. What I like to do instead is I like that because it gets old. If you have them do it after every chapter, they're just going to dread it later on. So I would just rather every 5 chapters, maybe I assign different chapters. I tell them I create a spreadsheet or like a Google Doc, and I said, which chapter you want to do? Okay, no more than 2 people can repeat the same chapter. Off you go, and then they make the smash doodles. So basically, a smash doodles, for those of you who don't know what a smash doodle is, you have them pretty much give them categories, and I added some categories. I learned about smash doodles from Senorita Detlinger. I think that's how you pronounce her last name. She shares it, and I will share with you her link because she has the document with the rubric and everything. But I added 2 categories. I added the category of music list, and I added the category of tweet. Create a tweet from the character's perspective and create a music list about something that is relevant to the chapter. So my students have to identify vocab again, pick the 3 most important scenes from the story, straight from the book, and then write their reflections, just like the reflections I was talking about earlier. They will write the reflections, and then I can have them present on that. Okay, I can have them present on that, not read from the smash doodle, but actually present and do some presentational speaking assessment with a smash doodle. Okay, or I can have I can have them create the smash doodles, and I can post them around the room, and I can say, okay, we're ready to talk about any chapter of the novel because you don't know what chapter you're going to get tomorrow. And they should be ready to talk about every chapter. I mean, that to me, that's putting a lot of pressure, but you know, I could do that if I wanted to, or I could just say, okay, you created a smash doodle for chapter 1. You can't present on your chapter, but you can present on another chapter. And that way, you know, the students are able to present on the chapters, and that could be your presentational speaking assessment. For Amanda, you were asking me about speaking. This is one way that I do my my presentational speaking assessments. I have them create smash doodles, and then I may allow them to use their own smash doodle and present on a chapter, or I may say, I want you to select another chapter that someone else created a smash doodle for and present on that, because they should know everything in every chapter. Okay, so you can do that like that. How would you do this virtually? I'm not gonna be doing a presentational speaking for my students for free that virtually. To be honest, I don't even know if I'm gonna get through the entire novel. Because you know, I'm finishing it next week, and next week is our last week of school, and I don't like to rush the chapters. I don't like to rush the chapters, so I don't know. I haven't told my students we may not finish the novel because I don't want them to check out. So, but you know, I know that I may not finish the chapter. I might just do a little presentational writing assignment for them. Okay, so here's my favorite way to assess my students, because like I said, all I have to do is come up with topics for them to do. So this was a presentational writing assessment for the Felipe Alou novel, and I gave them 3 options. And you can see all the student was able to write. It was I did not time it. I just like allow them to write during the whole class. Now she did not take the whole class to write it, but and then I had some choice activities afterwards for my students who were early finishers. This was back in the classroom, but definitely if you're gonna do a presentational writing activity, I highly suggest that you have different topics so that the students can select a prompt that is most appealing to them. Students always, especially high schoolers, they always appreciate to have those choices. They always appreciate to have those choices. So I asked them to do a detailed retell of the novel, compare your life to Felipe's, and write a book review. The student decided to compare her life, as you can see, and that's kind of like what she wrote, and she did a really, really, really great job at it. And all of my students were able to do at least half of what this student wrote, and that was pretty good. So this was like a level 2. So that's my favorite type of assessment for the students is on that. And then Amanda, another activity that I do for speaking, I thought I had it in here, but I guess I didn't add it in here, is yeah, I did not add it in here, sorry. But I actually make a foldable and I have them create questions, and then I have them ask each other the questions, just kind of like what I was showing you with the Jamboard, but on a foldable in the classroom. That's kind of what I do for speaking. And then I'm just walking around and making sure that there are on the target language. If I am doing it online, I really can't tell. It's kind of like honor code, because in Google, not in Google, in Zoom, you can't, you guys know, those of you who use Zoom, you can't see what they're doing. So what I do is I have a little form at the end that where I ask them very simple things. Did your partner speak to you in Spanish? And obviously it's an honor code thing. So they can lie to me. They can lie to me, but I honestly I give them the benefit of the doubt for that. So yes, but let me tell you, they will tell on their partners. I have students who say my partner did not speak, she refused to speak, and I want to have another partner. And that's when you give the students the choice. You can have the student, you can actually do this. You can say, okay, who wants to do breakout rooms and who wants to go in the breakout rooms and actually participate? If you don't want to do that, that's okay. You're going to stay with me and I'm going to ask you the questions. And that way you can have everybody who wants to participate, have some interaction, and the students who don't want to do that, they can stay with you in the main room and you can have interactions with them. They don't get off the hook that easily. And you can make sure and monitor that they're on the target language. Okay, so here are some freebies that I'm going to share with you guys. So I am going to share with you the Smash Doodle that was created by Senorita Detlinger. Like I said, she has the whole document in there. I haven't seen anything better, not even paid, for how to do a Smash Doodle than what she has in there. She did an amazing job with that, okay? Then I have a little video that actually it's linked to my Facebook group. But that tells you more about how you can do focus reading in the classroom. It's like a 15-minute video. And then there is that document that has the focus reading symbols, where the students can read. They can mark with like question marks and circles. And then I have this little breakout room. What is it? It's an editable Google slide, so you can edit it and change it around and change it and put your Bitmoji in it. And I have it in French for my French teachers, if I have any French teachers watching, or if I have any present at this moment, I have that there in French for you. And you can change it if you see any mistakes or anything. I don't think so, but you never know. I make mistakes in my Spanish stuff all the time. So you can change it around. And yes, so you can use what you need. And then I have a blank graphic organizer for you. You're gonna make a copy, and it's in Jamboard, so it'll make a copy. And my computer is thinking right now. Let me see, is it sharing what it needs to share? Okay, can you see it? Yes. Okay, so this one is blank, so I'm sharing this one with you. If you want to kind of like play with a Jamboard, you totally can with this one, because I'm sharing this one with you. And then back to the presentation, something else. Oh yeah, if you're totally new to Jamboard, I highly suggest you check it out and try it. I have a free video on it that tells you exactly how to use it from scratch, and you have access to that as well. And I will be emailing you this presentation with this recording tonight. So you will get it. You will get the PDF of this presentation. And my people on Facebook, you guys, you guys have my heart. So I'm gonna share with you the link as well in the Facebook community. So don't you worry, because that's coming. And then lastly, I'm gonna show you, as you know, I have a lot of products on Jamboard in my TPT store that you are welcome to go peruse and buy or not buy. But these activities, and I know that a lot of you have them already, because a lot of people have, I know a lot of people in my group have purchased them, but I made this with the intent, like I made this novel templates as a way for me to like have something to do after every chapter every day. Okay, I made them because they save me time. And if you decide to buy them, they come in Jamboard form. They come in a Google slide form. So if you're a Google teacher and you don't want to use Jamboard, you can just use it in Google Slide. And they come in a PDF form, so that if you're teaching face-to-face, you can also print the sheets and give them to your students. So there's 3 forms that it comes with, and it's 18 novel templates that you can use that helps you helps your students come up with all kinds of activities. And there's like my Jamboard games too. So and I have another Jamboard set that is not in here, but it's a bunch of graphic organizers because I love to teach with graphic organizers. I just find them, my students find them very engaging. I find them very successful to do engagement with my students. And oh yeah, here's the other one. I totally forgot I had put it in here. So here are some more. And then finally, if you are not connected with me, I want to invite you to follow me on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, or visit my blog, because there's a lot of ideas. If you're brand new to Jamboard, again, I blog a lot about Jamboard in there. I give you so many ideas on how to use it in your classroom in so many ways. And then if you're not part of our Facebook community, they are all super, super lovely. And they all support each other, and we all just kind of share our journey. And I do trainings live in there. Today I did not do it live because I was going to do this webinar, but most of the time the purpose of that Facebook community is to make quality professional learning accessible to all world language teachers, because I believe all world language teachers are trying to do what's best for their students. And sometimes because our schools won't pay for it, or because we can't travel, or maybe we have kids and we can leave them for a weekend and go to a conference, I want to make sure all the teachers who are in my community have a space where they can come and they can get quality PD. So thank you so much of those of you who are watching me from there, and those of you who are not part of that community, I want to invite you to it. So thank you so much for your time. Let me know if you have any questions at this time, and I will gladly answer. I know I kept you a little bit over 8 o'clock. So just let me know if you have any questions. All right, so I'm hearing thank you. And again, I will send you guys the replay in a little bit. Yes, Ana Karen, yes, I'll see you tomorrow. Super. Adios, adios. Gracias, thank you so much for coming, guys.
Adiós, Berta, gracias.
Hasta luego. Hasta luego. Yes, I will, Pamela, I will send you the link to the chat. A lot of people sometimes request that. I will make sure I send you the link to the chat as well. No worries. All right, my people on Facebook, I am logging off. Thank you so much for listening in. I will be sharing the links with you, so be on the lookout for that as well. Hasta luego.